Benvinguts. Bonvenit. Welcome. So I think I will do that in English, not that you can understand it. But first of all, as I said, welcome, bonvenit in Romanian. Welcome to this house, which is the House of the Architects of Catalonia. I think it's a nice opportunity because normally for architects we always talk about space. Since we began here in the new group of people that we are in the Colegio Arquitect and the Colegio de Arquitectes, we're always discussing about what means space in terms of exhibition. I think that we always talk about the Spy Picasso, which is the Picasso space. Sometimes we talk about the lobby, the entrance. Sometimes we talk about the mezzanine, etc. But there's one space that is very important, space which is the street as an exhibition. So as this is a transparent building, is something that we could take advantage of that, and I think that this is an exhibition that explains that very well. So the space itself is not only a physical space; it's not a space that is related to inside space. It's an outside space that relates to the street in terms of physically. But at the same time, it's not only physical, it's connected with another city in Bucharest, in another street, etc. So it's connecting people in a more physical, virtual relationship. So I think it's interesting to understand that the space of an exhibition is not only a space that we recognize as construction, it's an exhibition space understood as a more architectural 21st century space. Okay, so I think that this is when Constantine Goehea, which is one of the people who will lecture today, explained to me that exhibition. I was very attracted about this exhibition because of that, because it was breaking the limits, or the barrier between inside and outside. That is very typical in architecture, but it's not only the limits about inside and outside, is breaking the limits of time and space. So I think that for me was a very good opportunity for the Colegio Arquitectes to have this exhibition, to begin even some of the exhibitions that we begin with this new group of people in the culture and the Colegio Arquitectes with this exhibition. So today we have these two people, Constantine Goehea and Justin, it's difficult to say sometimes, Baronzea. Baronzea. It's Justin Baronzea and Constantine Goehea to explain this installation, which is called Lightcode, and these 3xperience, like experience, like 3xperience at the same time. So let me only read the CV, more like an institutional thing. First was more or less my approach to your exhibition, and second thing is about something more about data, etc. Constantine Goehea is an architect and curator. His work investigates the relationship of contemporary culture, different times, technology, and space. He's an active member of professional organizations, consultant, and jury member in Romanian and international events, also involved in design and architectural practice, doing design for exhibitions and museums. Founding member of Zeppelin Association since 2008 and director of International Magazine of Architecture, Zeppelin's City Society Technology. Organizer and curator of the Romanian Biennale of Architecture since 2004, 4 editions in a row, and co-author of Remix Fragments of Country exhibition in Romanian Pavilion for the Venice Biennale 2006. And Justin Baronzea, PhD by the UPC at SAP Barcelona, is associate teacher at the Urbanism Department in the Institute of Architecture Ion Mincu, Bucharest, research scholarship in the Architectural Project Department of UPC, associate teacher in the Bach School of Architecture Barcelona, associate teachers at the Architectural Project Department of Ion Mincu, Bucharest, and associate teacher in the Bach School of Architecture Barcelona from 2012 again. Apart has been collaborator of TDB Architecture in Barcelona, collaborator of 3+2 Architects in Barcelona, member of Artes Design in Bucharest, member of Point for Space in Bucharest and Panda in Bucharest, and correspondent in Barcelona of Architecture Magazine, correspondent in Barcelona of Zeppelin Magazine. So both are architects, publishers, and teachers. So I think that this a transversal disciplinary way of thinking, from academy to professional fields and edition publishers, I think is something that we would like to enjoy tonight. So thank you, Konstantin and Justin, for coming and being here for this exhibition and this lecture. Thank you.
Does it work? Yes. Good. Thank you very much, Josep. Thank you very much, Gemma. Thank you very much, Colegii de Arquitectura here in Barcelona. It's very nice that you have us here. Yep, tonight we gonna explain a little bit about our approach and the latest projects that happened in the last 1.5 years, 2 years, something like that. Already 2 years. Yep, so we're gonna talk about our projects more in exhibitions and museums, because this is what we did for a long time ago. We have like almost 20 years doing these things, editorial and curatorial approach to architecture and also to exhibitions. So the first project that we would like to introduce you, it's called, has the title Curiosity Doesn't Kill the Cat. And this is the first time when we met a client, an institution client, which is the Romanian National Museum of Literature. So from the regular exhibitions that we are doing, the architectural exhibitions and the design exhibitions that we are doing, we jump to a very different topic, literature. So literature is very complicated and is very sophisticated, and it has a lot of things to do with reading. So how to do an exhibition in a museum, which has to be very different from a, not a bookshop, not a library. It has to be something else. It has to be a museum. Well, museums in Romania, they are not, let's say, in the happiest moment of their life, because after the fall of the regime, most of them lost their premises, their headquarters. They don't have space because of retrocession. The old owners in the communist time, they lose their spaces for the communist regime, and the communist regime gave it to museums. Now they recovered their spaces, and the museums lost their premises. So a lot of museums without space for exhibiting their, things. It's the same case with the literature museum, and it happened that in the last years they have to pack everything they had and to put in a basement or in some offices and to keep everything locked, and what to do. But one day someone from the municipality said, okay, literature museum is very important for our city. This is because our mayor, she is a writer in her dreams, and she likes to write, and she's flirting with the poets and with the, novelists and so on. And she's also, supporting the academia. So she was very enthusiastic, and she gave the space for a new museum, for the new literature museum. But, when you give someone like the director of the museum a nice present like this, a building, then you say, and when is ready the museum? It should be very fast. And then who is going to take care of the whole problem? The designers, the architects, here. So you cannot imagine how fast things may happen in Romania sometimes. We have a very fast internet, for instance, and this is very good. But when you apply the speed of internet to real life, then it's kind of difficult moment. Well, as I said, they have everything packed, and they said, look, come, you go into the deposit and you see what we have there. So we met a lot of bizarre objects and a lot of files and paintings and sculptures and mortuary masks, and you cannot imagine. It was really like a bazaar, and nothing was systemized or curated or organized in a real way, you know. So we found really a diverse world from 16th century till Dada, Brâncuș and Tristan Țarat together, but again something related with the church and, you know, this kind of facsimile representing a page from a Bible from 17th century, and a surrealistic montage by a very famous poet in Romania. Well, a lot of things. A lot of people used to spread large text on walls, and with a lot of PhDs waiting for us to install all these things together in a way, in a spectacular way, because the mayor was waiting for the, you know, beautiful present. Well, after all these things, we've been in a situation of explaining two very simple things. One, that the most important thing is to organize the information, to make an architecture of the information, which is like refusing a chronological order of all the people that wrote something in Romanian language. This is very unexpected for our client, because they really wanted to have every poet and every writer with his portrait and a large chunk of text. And instead of these things, we imagine another system where, save God, the house has only 3 floors, the ground floor, the first floor, and the attic. So we said, just, you know, look at the house and put the poetry on the ground floor, the you know, essays and critiques at the first floor, and the theater on the attic. This is one thing, and then the whole geometry of the house was something that helped us to really organize the whole structure of the exhibition. Not only the structure and the structure of information, but also a system that could help them in a way to create a flexible way to curate other exhibitions. So what you can imagine here, there are some squares, simple squares that you can notice here. They can be rearranged and reinterpreted. And also another important fact is that this house is very old, from the beginning of 20th century, the end of 19th century. It's a so-called symmetrical house, but which is not really symmetrical. There is an axis, you can notice, from the circle and to the oval, which is actually like a spine of the whole house. Well, Justin?
I don't know if it functions or not. Here, the fact is that we weren't allowed to change much about the space of the house, because the city hall rented the house for the museum, and the idea was to structure information in order to not transform this in a sort of labyrinth where you can get lost and to suffer a bombardment of information. A mí me gustaría hablar en castellano y aún más en catalán, pero creo que se tiene que hablar en inglés. Así que os voy a maltratar con mi inglés. So we said, okay, we have an axis with 3 geometrical form on this axis. an ellipse, a hexagon, an irregular hexagon, and a circle. And if you extrude these three forms, you obtain two cylinders and a prism. And in every geometrical object like this, you can find a cut. If you make a section, you can find a cut of Romanian literature, where you can find a mix, not only of eras, of times, but of types of literature. No, in the cylinder you have, and we can start to show. Okay, in the hexagon, in fact, there is the main entrance and one at one level, which have the info point and the desk for merchandising and all the entrance apparatus with the wardrobe and stuff. Then in the cylinder you have temporary exhibitions, and in all those holes of light you have poetry and text that you can discover step by step. And in the ellipse you have the main poets of Romanian literature. There are three poets that we choose from three different eras. I will don't bother you with names and information like this. And then in the wings that are connected to this central spine, we distributed the rest of information related to poetry in the ground floor. Every table is a micro universe, and we didn't structure only what's on the walls and in the main rooms, but it's like some kind of fractal way of thinking. I think I exaggerated a little bit, but in every box we tried to organize information and to systemize it, because it was really strange. All the connections between small objects, fragments, text seemed a bit chaotic. So we tried to invent a system that puts order in all the boxes. So we made a 3D AutoCAD. No, you say, okay, I will start to distribute everything in layers, and we made a vertical system of display, and here it's not very visible, but you can see that all the information is structured in order to give importance to every object, not to have a mix in a box, like shaken box that you put there on each box.
Okay, and then we went up for the literature, like novels and essays and critiques, and we also proposed them to systemize everything according to some important themes, like what is literature now. Literature, it's fantasy or it's reality, it's reflecting reality, or it's something imaginary, it's a territory of escape, you know. And also we had a room for literature and movie, or this kind of illuministic thinking, where we have very open-minded people and people that were like crossing all the domains of philosophy and literature. So actually the whole system, it's imposing a sort of hierarchy. You can see here these cubic windows that are with different heights, because some of them are more important, some of them are writing bigger books or more important books. Sometimes we added also some white cubes just to let them combine text and objects. And also we added an electronic system to go deeper and deeper in the information. this is again the cylinder room where we had this installation. It's a cylinder that you can explore by pushing the little windows that you see there, and then it's like a prism where you can read different connections in between film and literature. Actually, the whole idea was that not to have information that everybody can find on Wikipedia with a simple mobile phone, but also to create connections and overlapping and association of different types of literature and unexpected ways of perceiving some themes in literature. It's very important for a museum not to have this kind of very, how should I put it, respectful way of looking at the information, but to trigger much curiosity and to let people to touch things. So this is the first floor, and you see it's a combination of with different shallows of objects and with different types of transparency and opaqueness of the displays that we created. Then we went up in the attic, where the space is more spectacular and more dramatic. So it's absolutely perfect to represent the drama, the theater. And the theater is mostly presented and interpreted with the support of the media, like films and sound. And for this reason, we propose them a very adjustable system which can be expanded and enlarged with screens and smaller screens like here, where we can combine different types of films, projection, and also a tablet that can be used to present the whole concept of how theater and literature can be explained to the public. So for the first public appearance of the museum, we made a selection of the most known dramas presented on TV. TV and theater, they are very important. And we made a nice selection of the actors that are most loved actors in Romania. Here is the space. The attic, as I said, is very dramatic and it's very spectacular. And this adjustable system and flexible system, where they can now recreate another kind of selection, another kind of curatorial approach to theater in this space. There is a small area of the attic where we put this system of chairs. They are looking more like ottomans, and the system allows like small lectures or performances, experimental performances. And also here again the small cylinder where we have the installation dedicated to the most influential drama writer in Romania. Good?
The fact is that it was very funny to work with this place, because normally you go to the theater and you sit there and we are acting here, no? You sit in a theater. But this was an opportunity to understand theater in a different way, like in a journey, no? The presentation is fixed and you move around. You don't sit and people are playing for you. You have to recompose in a journey. What do you want to see and what do you expect to see? So it was like changing, you know, the roles for between what is viewing and acting. In fact, you are like acting in a deconstructed drama. No? So it was like very funny to play with this, and this is why all these screens are very light in order to redistribute them and in order to replace information. And from time to time, this space is changing totally, and you will see a new display, a new type of drama, and you can remake the journey and not to be bored by to death by that space. You know, you never can say, "Ah, I went there, I know it, it's okay, it's finished." It's never finished. And it was another funny thing. Oh no,
We are
back. Because this cylinder, it's very easy to remember as geometry, no? So you can remember, okay, I was there in the ground floor, and it was everything about poetry and beautiful text. Then I went up, and it was all about movie and actors and things like this. And I go up again, and it's again about acting and about these kind of things, but in drama. So you can make yourself your own composition and your own cut in literature. And the geometry and the space help you a lot through memory to recompose what you want to remember. And the ellipse also and the hexagon also provides you hints about how to lecture the space.
good. Let's talk about the next thing, the next approach we had, called nostalgia and analysis. From time to time, I mean, every year, Zeppelin is organizing a big show with the label Zeppelin in Bucharest, because, yeah, we need it and we like it, and it's funny, and you know, people are important, and the community of architects and designers and creative people love us, and we love them, and so on. Well, this project is called Pop-Up Creative Kit, and it's about something that you cannot see. It's a very thin layer of things that actually people tend to forget. It's not about architecture, but still it's connected with a little bit something with the architecture. It's about a thin layer which is formed by the objects and that appear in the public space, like here, let's say the bus, or the cars, or the advertising that you see above the entrances, or the pole, the light pole, or the waiting machine, or the furniture that appear in the public space. It's like we wanted to have like an archaeology of and an anthropological discourse over things that appear and disappear in a context, and people tend to forget, but in the same time people have an emotional attraction and an emotional link, very, very, very important. Because, you know, the pole here, the stop pole, someone can remember that, oh yeah, I have a meeting next to that pole, it was very important for me. Or to the ice cream, small furniture, or this box for shoemakers, or these peasants selling apples in the streets, and the kiosk, and the photographer in the park, the small chariot for chestnuts, things like that. You know, it's something that, yeah, of course they are there, but sometimes they are disappearing, you totally forgot about them, and God knows where they are. God knows what is their life, where they disappear, where all the meetings and memories have gone, you know, things like that. So, of course, we had the opportunity to put a frame around these pictures and to put them in an exhibition with a long text, and that's it. But this is not us, you know. It's kind of impossible to approach such an interesting topic with such a little attention to actually what we wanted to discover. So yeah, and this one from the communist time, which is also very nice. And again, the communist time with the garbage chariot and the tram and a lot of things. So for this project, we wanted to have a different approach. Analysis, which is like a scientific analysis and a very, how should I say, cold approach, really like scientist. And for this reason, we invented a, let's say, a herbarium, you know, like a scientific apparatus to analyze all these objects. And we recreated, reinterpreted some chariots. You can put any function that you imagine for these chariots. It might be a chariot for coffee, it might be something for ice cream, it might be something for newspapers, but it's for everything. And then, yes, we did this, and we went on with the system, which is very clean. It's like drawers, and it's like a window for scientific objects. And here we are. These are our little objects that we found, and we made like an archive of these objects, and we started to redesign them out of the context with scientific precision. They are made in AutoCAD, and we are overlapping layer by layer, section with section, to create sort of a profoundness of the object. It's like a fake 3D, but still it's a 3D.
I think that the joke here was that we are acting like forensic doctors, you know, not as architects. And we said, okay, let's decompose everything to make small sections. You know, when you want to observe a cell, you take a glass plate and you put it on the glass plate, you overlap something on it, and you put it in the microscope, no? We said, okay, we cannot build a microscope. We don't want to do this, but we want to work with this kind of transparent blades where you decompose what you want to observe. And the explaining texts and the information were hanged with these pieces of cardboard with a photo and with a description that was really like in a forensic...
in a morgue.
In a morgue. So these are really deceased objects. Nobody uses them anymore. Maybe nobody remembers them. So when you speak about them, you have to have a different kind of perspective.
Yep, you can see here a sharpener for blades, also a chariot, a photography machine, and also you can see the tags, the labels that we attach to these objects, exactly like for a corpse in a morgue, with very small and precise information when they appear, when they disappear, where we found the information about the object. And speaking about forensic, here is the light that is inspired from those kind of movies with forensic, when they have the turquoise light on their faces. This is a very old Dacia, which is the Renault, the old Renault thing.
It's our national car, in fact.
Exactly.
During communism, this was our national car. Everybody wanted one. It was an object of desire, and it was high-end design.
and an old chariot. And here we have the combination of the object and the tag, because one part of the tag was the photography where we found the object actually. And it was funny to see people that for the first moment they were impressed by the 3D and the lights and so on. But it was like, when you enter in a museum and everything is perfect. And then when they took the label, the tag, and they were sweeping up with the photo, they were like, I do remember these things. Exactly. Do you know when we had the gas tank or that thing or the Dacia thing? And it was a combination of personal emotion and personal attachment to the memories of all these objects, and the scientific approach and the lines that were very precise and cold.
And we took this as really laboratory work. We didn't had a client for this work. It was our project, and we approach it like this. And we made a lot of experiments with it, and we learn a lot of how you can produce content, how you can manipulate content, and how you can be closer to the visitor, to the user. And we took this project and mixed it with the Literature Museum when we started the next project.
Yeah.
It's a fusion project, this one, between a client project and a non-client project that merged together in the third project that we present.
So now we went on with the Prince Wine and Sounds project, the Anton Pan Experience House. It's a memorial house for one of the writers in the 19th century. Nothing more, like rigid or boring when you imagine literature in the 19th century. And of course, another gift from the municipality to the Literature Museum, because also this one, it's with our client, the Literature Museum. And Anton Pan is a special character that lived in the 19th century. He had a very special way of building his poetry and his way of articulating in Romanian. So, as you can see here, we went on with our system, the idea of recomposing 3D images and tags, because we discussed about how important it is to have very small sentences on these tags, and how important is the image, and how we can let people to go in the space without naming a definite order, from left to right, or from 1 to 10 or things like that. When people enter in an exhibition, it's something that is glittering somewhere, is glowing somewhere, and you go exactly where the object or the thing it's more important for you. It's nothing that you can oblige people to go exactly in your narrative and to go like reading a book. It's totally different. Well, this is a very small house. Justin?
Yes, when we first saw the space, it was very funny because they told us that it's completely restored, that was everything perfect, and they were waiting again to put very fast the content inside. And we discovered that it wasn't like this. In fact, the first project was to repair the damages that were produced by restoring the house. So we start from scratch a little bit, and then we thought again how to organize the areas of interest, for Anton Pan, and was a very simple thematic. It was about biography, about cultural context, about music, about typography, about Bucharest in the 19th century, and it was about a character that this guy brought into Romanian literature, which is Nastratin. And on these domains, we structure all the information.
So what you can see in the image, it's a plan of a house with a small courtyard and also a little something, a little square, right, with a staircase there. That one is the basement, you know, it's a cellar. That is the only original thing that remained from his house, 5 square meters. The rest was reinvented by someone who did the job for the municipality at a certain moment, doesn't matter, we don't go there. Anyway, this is the small house, and we presume that only the drawing of the facade remained from the original. There is no architectural element that remained there. No complaints. I'm saying nothing bad about this. This is the entrance. The courtyard is now like a space for small workshops with kids, things like that. But we go on. This is our guy. This is Anton Pan. You see he's wearing a Turkish cap. He was born in Bulgaria, very close to Romania, but in Bulgaria. But all his life he wrote only in Romanian, and very, very good, very good sense of language and poetry. Actually, we've been discussing with some researchers, and they told us he was like all the time replying in verses, in rhymes to other people. And he was thinking in rhymes and in music. He had music in his head all the time. He had a very beautiful voice, and he was singing in the choir of the churches, but also in private parties, entertaining people with a lot of things. Well, a part of these talents, like writing poetries and texts and singing, he created a lot of music, both religious and popular music. He was also an entrepreneur. He was like printing and collecting and re-editing some other people's text. Well, this is our guys, and just to continue with this idea that he was kind of very popular and very funny and had a lot of humor and a lot of joy. He was spreading joy around him. We go in the basement. In the basement, the original basement, the 5 square meters that remained from that time, we suppose it was a cellar for wines. Yeah? Can you?
It was like a game, no, of thinking what could that place be and what can become, and it was we transform it in a bottle storage with poetry, bottles and poetry. You can take a bottle from this rack and read the text done by this guy, and he made a lot of texts about wine. He was happy drinking wine, and it was very funny because he wrote a lot of text about types of drunk people. An anthropology study about drinking wine and getting drunk, and he made a text about the happy drinker, about the sad one, about the depressive, about the aggressive drinker, about the nuts, and more typologies.
Yeah, he really made like a collection of different types. He organized very systematically all kind of drunkards and the way people can drunk. Also about the quality of wine and many habits around actually he wrote like 4 books around these habits. So of course you can have the small passages of the books that you can see in those boxes, but those ones are not that important. More important is to take a bottle and to read a small passage about drinking, you know. So we have like 100 bottles with 100 small texts from his writings, and it's not important in which order you take the text, it's not important in which order you put them back in the support. It's more important to enjoy the idea of taking bottles and to have a sweep of his philosophy about drinking. Actually, there is a word in Romanian, it's like a joke when you invite people to drink something, you ask them, are we going to read something? You know, it's serious. But this is different. Now we go upstairs for the prints and
it's the same approach that we tested in the previous exhibition. We took out from the laboratory our experiment and tried to put it in a serious museum. No, you invent a system. It's like a prototype, and you want to test if the prototype will really fit in a museum. And it's again like a forensic approach, but this time it's about characters and about graphics, and these are prints of very famous graphic designers during the 60s, 70s and the 80s that represented the main characters of Anton Pan's literature. And it was like very funny to decompose them and recompose them and study them and to find information about these authors and about their production and to exhibit everything that they did, but in a different manner.
yeah, so you have the illustration of a small text, and in the tag you can find exactly the passage where the illustration is linked, you know, where the illustration belongs to. Here is a very famous small installation that can produce a small animation. It's called praxinoscope, and it's one of the ancestors of the cinema, right? The funny thing is that praxinoscope and the zoetrope, there are two small apparatus. They were invented exactly during the life of our character in the 19th century, 1833, 1834. And because of that, we have chosen to have this small gadgets here. Because they are very funny and it's useful for explaining the humor of his characters. So we made like few animation stripes, and these animations you can see them exactly here on hanged on those clips on the wall. You can read the small passage about those things in his original writings, very small extracts from the books, and then you can change yourself and to put yourself in the praxinoscope, and you can have a short animation. It looks like working now. People really enjoy this game. Here it's another very funny things. In 1847, a big fire destroyed half of Bucharest, and our guy was there, and he wrote the longest poetry you can imagine, like 2.5 meters long piece of paper if you really want to put it down, you know. But it's 81 verses, it's strophes, it's really, really long, and it's very dramatic, and it's really interesting nowadays. Critics are really interested in this poetry. So for this reason, we have that wheel that you can see there, and you can experience the whole poetry. Even some, if you get bored reading 81 verses, then you can stop by, you know, just picking up those things that are interesting for you. Are we going to say more about this?
More. This is details of our dissection and of our laboratory work. And the most interesting thing was to work with this guy as a musician, no? To discover the instruments that he composed for, to discover the texts, the songs, and we wanted to find all these exotic instruments, and some of them are still used by Turkish musicians. Somebody went to Istanbul to buy them. They are not new instruments, but they are not antique instruments. So you go into the flea market and you can find all these strange instruments for us with a very specific sounds, and you can see the instrument, but you also can experience it individually, the sound, the pure sound of the instruments, and then combined in some music place. So I don't know if this collection can really give you an ambience of that era, you know, because I can imagine that the party music and the religious music were like linked somehow, because this guy was singing in the church on Sunday, and then he was partying with his drunk friends all the days of the week. So I think it's a collection of ambiances, put it there, and the sound exhibition is more important than the one that you can see here hanged on the wall, you know. It's a collection of small headphones.
Yeah, where you have every instrument registered alone, and you have like a loop of that sounds with the individual sound of every instrument. There are 23 different instruments, and it's very nice because the name of the instrument is very exotic. Pandura, Santur, Brebab, Kanun, wood. It's very interesting because nowadays we are not using this kind of instruments, and the shape and the volume and the number of strings, it's very different that for anything that we know, you know. And also you have small information about where they are coming from, how they were used, and also you can hear them. But also we have some researchers that did a serious research, and they are interpreting what you have done, and they are playing his music, Anton Pan music, and Julia is Toma waiting for you, and also we have a collection of songs composed by this guy. So the music room is very rich in this sense. Well, this is it with so far with our experiment. There is something else that I want to show you before to go to the Lightcode today. Yep. There are two little things that I want to show you. One is, again, another installation related with our guy, with Anton Pan. You know, in the lobby there is no information about when he lived, the years when he lived, this kind of biography, you know, nothing like this. because everybody comes and where he lived. That this is not important. It's more important to enter in his literature and in his thinking and to enjoy his way of living, the music, things like that. These are more important things. But we wanted to play also with his biography. He had 3 wives or 4. He was like a Casanova, a local Casanova, playing music, you know, flirting with girls, younger girls. His friends were afraid that their daughters could be, you know, attracted, allured in a relationship with this guy. So anyway, we have a lot of romantic stories about his life and his concubines and wives and so on, so forth. And also he made a lot of trips in his life, and trips at that time, middle of 19th century, they were difficult. Chariot, right, a carriage with horses, things like that. So there were some important moments in his life. And because of that, you have here a small carriage you can see here. You can play with the carriage, you know, and you move from a place to another, see, and the information comes to you little by little, and in different times you can find different characters, different situations that happened in his life, and in this way you can read small things and you can play with the chariot. There is another video. It's almost done. Yeah. Here you can see how the chariot is interacting with the information, and I have to say that even old people are coming, pensioners are coming in the museum, and they are really happy to play with the small toy. And it was very funny because we opened this museum when this Friday. Yes, it's very fresh, and this is why maybe the quality of pictures and the videos are not, let's say, perfect. But yes, the next day, Saturday morning, when I went with the photographer to have the first pictures after the launch, the official launch of the museum, there were like real people coming into the museum, you know, and they were really enjoying this thing with the chariot and with the praxinoscope and the zoetrope. Yep. We go back. And we are almost done with the Lightcode. I guess it's control something L. Exactly, I know. Yes, Lightcode is an installation, as Josep said, that is connecting Barcelona with Bucharest, and it's not about going inside, but trying to attract people, to seduce people from outside, passengers, and to trigger, you know, to trigger emotion and interaction in between people. Well, there is a mechanic behind behind this installation. Thank you for playing with it, and experiencing it. There is a mechanic behind it, which is like. Your body is moving in front of the screen, or the screen sees movements and can register the difference from the pixels that are moving. You know, it's registering actually the direction of the movement, and this is something that creates some vectors in the screen, and based on those vectors, the installation, the software that we have behind is fulfilling the screen with these flags that we have here, and these flags have different colors. Warm colors for Barcelona, and let's say colder colors from green and blues for Bucharest. They stands for both cities, and the flags are derived from the Maritime Code, International Maritime Code, which is inspired by Harbor Barcelona, of course, the whole history with the sea people signaling their presence in the city, signaling the events, signaling situations from distance, right? So maritime flags are used since long time ago. It's again about this idea of cultural archaeology we are interested in. It's a method that we are always refining and experiencing. So these flags may stand for a longer message or a precise message, or sometimes they stand for a specific letter. Every flag has behind it a letter, right? So we use these letters, and your body contains the letters and contains a message. This is the idea. When you are in the street, you contain a message. You have a thought, you have a mood, you have a memory, you have a pram with you, with the kids. You have something to say, you have something to offer, you have something to get from outside. So it's all the time like this. But as Justine said, when you enter in contact with a device, with social media, with internet, and with digital world, you don't know what gets out of your message. We really don't know.
You make the input.
You make the input.
You make the move. You write the text, and then a bot or a social network or somebody else will take that message, will transform it, or will use it with a different intention, and the message will be distorted or rethinked, and you will have a surprise, because the one that receives the message will have a different idea or a different impression than your intention or your initial text. So we are living in this type of society, we are living in this type of reality where everything, our communication is it's mediated by social design, by social networks, by bots, and by nowadays artificial intelligence. So you produce a message, and the machine will interpret it, will do the part of the machine, and will deliver a word. You cannot control this message. It's produced by your body, by your presence, by the fact that you are in front of the installation, but you cannot control the final message. And this is, I think, the most interesting part of this installation, because it's funny, you can play with it, but you are not able to control the final word that you deliver to the other side.
When you fulfill the screen, like 80% of the surface, then Lightcode is producing the longest word possible out of the letters that you produce with your body. We never know. Sometimes it's a nice word, sometimes it's something that you really understand, sometimes it's from Merriam-Webster. It's something very sophisticated and very scientific. And anyway, we cut out some bizarre words or offending words, but still there are some words that are really hard to get. So Barcelona and Bucharest moving together, or just, passengers are going there back and forth in their lives, whatever, they are introducing messages in the machine, and the machine from time to time is producing words, both from Bucharest and Barcelona, in the same time, sometimes separate, doesn't matter. It's only the fact that the machine senses the movement. And yes, this is the story. It's another experiment that we did, trying to connect to different cities and to reconsider what is inside, what is outside, if the exhibition has to be for a specific audience or for everybody. For sure, this kind of experiment can go farther. Here there is a small video with our tests and the production of these large screens, which are not TV screens. They are screens made with a sort of technology, very, how should I, very primitive technology. There are 800 LEDs that are connected with controllers. Nothing sophisticated, and it's very useful to imprint the flags in them. Otherwise, if you put your face in front of the camera and you really want to have like a live transmission, is nothing. It's impossible to distinguish faces or traits of the people. And this is a more advanced phase of the production when we were discussing about how the flags could appear and how the movement can be seized, which is the background, which is not the background, and so on.
And we have to say something very important. The mastermind behind this project is Cosmina, which is here with us. And somehow this project is her baby, and we only grew it and make it possible. But it was very clear her intention to use light to transmit messages and to start with this experiment, which I think will grow little by little, step by step, and will become more and more interesting and more sophisticated. It's just a start, and it's just a part of a research program that she initiated.
Yep, and guys, it's already 1 hour we are here, so thank you very much for your kindness and for your patience, and again for coming here on a rainy day and on a rainy, depressive Monday. Thank you very much.
Ho sento parlar anglès, podria ser millor.
Any questions?
Yes, questions, please. Shoot.
Now let's drink beer.
Do you have questions?
I'm waiting if somebody has questions. No?
No, because we know each other.
I-
Ens coneixem massa bé. Saben els projectes.
Yes,
Some
please.
comments.
Yes.
Before the video, okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Good.
I think that the lecture was about how architecture inhabits architecture.
Somehow, yes.
Somehow.
So I think that's something that is good. So because almost everything. So personally, it's not easy to work in this kind of exhibitions projects and curators projects, etc. Because in some way you have some kind of relationship to the person who you're talking about, or the things that you are talking about. At the same time, you have some kind of relationship to the architecture that you inhabit. So it's an architecture in between. You know? It's
Yeah.
between something that happened that you have to represent, but and something that exists, but it's old, it's previous, something physical that exists there, and something that is not physical that is in the past. So I think that is how architecture inhabits architecture. I think that is interesting in terms of understanding what you explain, and it's always some kind of dialogue or some kind of dualism between the things that you put and the things that exist. I was, for example, writing that in the first one you were working with this kind of abstract moldings related to the things that you were explaining, depending on the importance or the thing that you were capturing in the boxes. The height of the boxes were changing. Okay? But this kind of abstract moldings were related to this kind of Baroque moldings, which is space. So at the same time that you were explaining something with these moldings were in some way related to the Baroque moldings of this area.
Mm.
Like for example, in the attic, no? The attic was just totally different, no? It was some kind of, again, a dialogue, a tectonic dialogue between the wooden beams that are static related to the steel beams, steel
Aluminium,
The
very
The
light.
aluminium
Very
frame
light.
lights,
that
yes.
is dynamic, no? So it's static versus dynamic and heavy versus lightness, no? Or heaviness versus lightness, no? Or something fixed versus something that is movable, okay? But the language changes, no? One was some kind of abstract molding versus baroque moldings. The other one was about lightness versus heaviness, whatever, okay? But the second one, the second project was more or less the same, so you had a different relationship. It was a place with a huge window with frames, and then the exhibition became some kind of frames with windows. Even it was very nice because even the three-dimensional objects were explained through bidimensional layers, and they were transparent like the glass. So it was a way of showing outside usual objects in an inside space, seeing these inside objects in outside space.
Indeed, the relation with the objects, with the space, and all these kind of displays are always a huge problem. Sometimes the exhibit may really destroy the space. Really, I mean. They have nothing to do. One is representing something, the other one is something, and together is colors are mixing, texture, everything. It's a collapse. It's a conflict there, and what you have to do is to mediate, or sometimes really to hidden your object and to let people to search it and to find it. This is one strategy that we learned, that we really have to interrupt the communication in between occurrences, artistic occurrences in the space and the space itself. Yes, sometimes you can speculate the space, like the window, the transparencies, and your discourse goes, because that project was really experimental and it was our project from us, you know, a test bed for experiments, totally open.
So it was a lab, an open lab.
It was a lab, so we did it in both ways. The exhibit was made according to the space, and we exploited the quality of the space in the object, something like that, you know. When you have a museum and the whole exhibits, books, facsimiles, manuscriptums, paintings, sculptures, everything, furniture comes from the museum and from their collection, you know, you have to be like, whoa, chill down, you know. We have to put a break, we have to stop it, and to make like a neutral barrier in between. So this is why everything is black and white, just to make a very firm and net in between the exhibits and the space itself, which is very powerful, it's very colored, and it's very pompous in a way, and is destroying your relation with the art exhibit. Yeah, that's true.
I think that we have to be somehow conscious about the fact that we as architects, when we are dealing with this kind of projects, we are introducing our filters and our critical system. If you don't build a critical system before you start to work in an exhibition, this will produce chaos. And you have to assume your own critical system. You debate inside the team, you discuss with guys, with the specialists, with all the guys that are working in the museum, but then you build your own critical filter, and you put that filter in between the space and what you want to to present, what you want to exhibit. And we assume this. It cannot be totally objective. You want to be objective with the information, with the importance of the information, but then you have to structure. You have to structure a journey. And when you start to structure, you intervene, and the only way to deal with this is to be very sincere and to explain which is the filter. You know, I build this critical apparatus, I build this theoretical frame, I choose, I discriminate, I said this can be here and sit here, this cannot be, and to be honest and say, okay, these are my criteria. Okay, I cannot put everything, I cannot put it as it is, I cannot put it everything with the same importance. So you make a code of rules, you make this critical apparatus which translate in a filter that you interpose between the space and you want to exhibit, and that's it. They are tired.
they-
We can continue the talks.
Okay.
What about
of course.
some beers, guys?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.